Hi, I'm Ray McAllister, editor of Boomer magazine, and we're back with Harvey Newquist, executive director of the National Guitar Museum. Welcome back, Harvey.
Thanks much.
Your exhibit, Guitar, the Instrument That Rocked the World, is at the Science Museum of Virginia, and you've been sort of walking us through the elements of guitar and what's on exhibit. What do we have here? This is the 1949 guitar.
This one's actually from, I believe, 1952. But 1949, well, it's interesting you should say that, because in 1949...
Did I get it wrong?
No, you got it right, because 1949 is when Fender introduced the guitar that looked exactly like this. And it hasn't changed since 1949. You go to a store today, and the Fender Telecaster looks exactly like this, a little newer, but it's one of those things that has not changed at all in half a century, actually during the entire course of the Boomer generation, whereas almost every other appliance or artifact, from automobiles to toasters to telephones, has changed dramatically. I mean, think of a 1956 Thunderbird, and think of it today, or a Cadillac with big fins back then. All those things have changed remarkably. This, other than the electronics, has not changed at all.
Why? You got it right to begin with?
Yeah, it was almost formed, or almost fully formed upon its introduction. I mean, there's very little you could do with it, and there have been lots of companies that have tried to change it, and they've changed the shape a little bit. But by and large, the Boomers have embraced it to the point where it works. Don't mess with it.
Sure. And
we have this device that is so well appreciated and actually revered that no one wants it to change.
Well, you've talked about Fender. How about Les Paul? What was his role, if there was one?
Well, Les was a very famous jazz player and had his own TV show in the late 50s with his wife, Mary Ford, and they would sit around the house, and she would be baking and singing, and he would be playing the guitar, and then they'd film that from their living room. And Les was a great inventor. He invented sound-on-sound recording, which allowed bands to record individual parts, so the drummer could go in and then the singer could sing over the top of it, instead of everything being live. And he also, as we've talked about in the past, had a problem being heard in his jazz bands. So he created a guitar in the mid-40s. It was essentially a 4x4 block. It was called a log. It looked like a railroad tie. And he put a pickup on it and then kind of cut one of his own guitars in half and pieced it together, and everybody told him it was ugly, they didn't like it, but he played it anyway so he could be heard. And he took it to Gibson in the late 40s, and Gibson said, no market for that, not interested in that electric guitar. So he went away, and in the meantime, people like Paul Bigsby and Leo Fender had created guitars that became very popular. And by the mid-50s, or the early 50s rather, Fender was selling hundreds upon hundreds of guitars every year. And Gibson decided, we really missed the boat on this. Let's go back to Les and get him to put his name on a guitar we've created. So they basically took a shape similar to this, which was not at all similar to what Les created, and said, we've got a guitar, we want you to put your name on it, and you can make some design or decorative contributions, but by and large, it's pretty much the way it is. Do you want your name on it? And Les said yes. They signed a deal, and Les's only stipulation was that it be painted gold, because he wanted it to look more luxurious than this thing. So he said, that's for everybody. We want the high end, we're going to paint it gold. But Les had no, other than created that one log that was never turned into a production guitar, Les was not involved in the development of the guitars we know.
Very interesting.
And he does get credit for doing a lot of things, and certainly popularizing the electric guitar, but the guitars we know it today did not have a lot to do with Les.
Okay. Well, can you show us how this 1952 Fender works?
Well, instead of playing it on your lap like you do with the lap steel, it's called Spanish style. So it's up, held close to the chest, and the country players who popularized it, played country, Western music, and then of course you had people like the Beatles who played music that changed the world using guitars like this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Harvey. Check our YouTube channel, and we'll have more videos with Harvey.
Thanks.